Hello there, Eric here with HHK, and today I'll give you a little introduction into porting your 12 valve head. So to start off, this particular head, I milled the intake side off it. But I will start with basic things that you can do without milling the intake off, and then as I progress, I'll move on to explaining what you want to look for and what you want to do when you do this. So before I get into the porting of the cylinder head, this is a after addition to the clips filmed about 2 years after I'd filmed them. I had done a cutaway to get a good idea of how much meat you have on the cylinder head. So this is the exhaust port we're looking at here. Just put a hook, a tape measure to the front, give you an idea for reference on how much you can kind of take out, where the meat is. There's quite a bit on the short turn you can do. And then you can open up the guide here. I got to go into the exhaust porting later in the video. Then we've got the intake. So this is the swirl ramp side. If you're looking at the port, air comes in like this, goes around and then back up that way. So I don't get into it in the video, but as a note now is some of the very high performance cylinder heads, they mill this, grind down this whole swirl ramp so it's just a straight shot right into the port. Some people say that affects streetability because you're not going to have swirl, but if you're going for all-out performance, you'd want to hog off that swirl ramp. So there's enough meat there that you can take it off. That's a thing for meat reference. Then we've got the other side of the intake port, so you'd be looking in the plenum like so. And there's this hump here I talk about later in the video. And then around the valve guide area, this is just where the swirl ramp starts and goes up. Tape measure for meat reference once again. And showing the back side. Then lastly, put these together. I believe that's it. Comes up. Hope that helps you out. So starting off in the intake port here, I've put a fair bit of work into this. So by comparison, here's a stock one, and there's a lot of work you can do in the bowl area. The valve is quite shrouded, so I've started on this one. You can see between the two of them, just removing just a little bit of the edge, just so it has a smoother transition. For doing that, I'm using a electric die grinder with a straight bit, and I'm just going on it nice and easy like this. Make sure you don't go too much and contact the seating area for the valve. So what I do is I took my valves and I put some valve grinding compound on them, and I just lap them. So then that gives me this nice defined seating area. Just gives you an idea on where the limits are. So I've started to carve the side of this one, but going over to this one right here, you can see it's a nice smooth transition versus the intake side here has a bit of a lip to it. So now that I've got that port done, you can see just the difference from cleaning up that bowl. I believe this is called a stage 1 port job. So if you just want to lightly go over your head to help it out, you'd about stop there. In addition to the stage 1 port job will be a little bit of exhaust porting as well. So I'll do that next. I don't believe, I've done a little bit on this. You can kind of see this juts out right here. So I made this nice and smooth. So I'll hog this out and I'll follow up again. So a little further along on the exhaust port here, I'll try to get both of them in the same shot. So over here, I took down this little hump right there, smoothed it out. You can see I brought back that radius right there, smoothed it out. And then I went in a little bit deeper, kind of opened up the side of it here, straighten that out a little bit. That's all still with the same bit. This head is rusty because it was left outside through the winter. Everything else is still good on it. I'm gonna get it decked and sandblast the inside or have it hot tanked. But in case you're wondering why this thing looks like shit, I'm hogging it out. That's why. So for this next part, I'm switching to a more conical bit, and I'm gonna take down the ridge down by that valve seat, and then helps blend this wall out. You can see I got about a good chunk of it done on this one. All right, with that bit, you can see I pulled a little bit of material around where the guide is. So there's no longer a ridge there. Help blend that. And then I pulled a little more material around this short turn right here. Dug it out of the side, dropped this a little bit. You don't want to go too low on this area as the water does run underneath here. So you just kind of want to help smooth it out a little bit. And then I blended this a little bit, like opened it up a little bit wider too. I'd say this is about a stage 1. So for stage 2, which I'll come back to later, it would involve blending around the valve stem here and then porting the rest of the port coming in from the backside here, but I'll cover that later. So coming back to the intake, I'd say for like a stage 2-ish, I blended back this a little bit and cut it down. You can just make that out there. And then you can see where the side of the valve guide is here. I cut this back on this. So I'll do this to this one and we'll follow along. So about halfway into, I'd say, stage 2 porting, you can see I start by carving off the left side, and then you'll start at the top and you'll kind of work your way down. It's going to be kind of hard to do the floor, so we're just going to do around the stem here, and then you'll still come around the back side here. So just a little update as we go. So you can beginning to see a pretty considerable difference between the port between these two. So next thing I'm going to do, I have this long, focus, come on, long conical bit, and I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to carve down the side of this as you can kind of see it sticks out a little bit. I'll pull this back a little bit, and I'll flatten out and widen the floor here, or roof, I guess, since it's upside down. So I'd say this is about where most of you will stop. I widened out about here. You could maybe do a little bit more. Another thing, you can hog this hump down quite a bit. So we'll go over to this one. You can drop this left side quite a bit. I think I got about started on here, so this is a little not as much as this other one here. This one's almost square. And then let's just get started on this one. I don't want to go too far, as a lot of blending that low spot coming in from the backside here. So moving back over to the exhaust side, this side you can't really take a whole lot of material off. So what I did is I smoothed this little hump down. I did not do a gasket match. I'm leaving the port this size, as I think with a gasket match it would probably get pretty thin. So I'm just going to stick to porting it out. So I thinned this out, then I went over along the bottom here and brought this in a bit. Same for the top, and then I moved this side over a ton, as well as carved. Oh, focus. Well as I carved this short turn quite a bit. Didn't really do a whole ton to the roof, but I did cut down where the guide is. So I'll go over to one that I did do here. So you can see it's a pretty good difference. This wall's flattened out. I could probably take a little bit from right here, straighten it out a little bit. These are cut down. This short turn squared off, so just for a quick comparison, you can see it's a lot narrower between these two areas. So I opened that up, and then back in the port I smoothed out the transition by the guide, and I carved a lot out of the side over here to really open up this side. Not a ton over here. It's pretty hard to grind this down. Otherwise, I would have transitioned it a little bit better. Maybe if I spend some more time, I could and use a different bit. So for like a lot of the top stuff, I switched my bit over to one with a little less of a point to it. And I was able to carve these really nice. I didn't really do too much at the bottom nor the top. Just kind of went over it, so it took the casting slag off it. They were pretty good. I'll move over to the port now. So you can see I helped transition past the guide here. Here's one I didn't get to the guide yet. As well as I really carved out this side quite a bit to help transition it around the guide, as it's quite shrouded. So you can kind of see I could probably carve that down a little bit more. I've already taken quite a bit out. And then you want to do a lot of work around this short turn here, widening it up. Going back to a stock one, you can see quite a bit of material here to take out. You almost kind of, I take out this whole area here. And then this one coming back up to the exhaust bowl, I'd say I'm about done with this one. To the extent of my knowledge and just from what I've done. So I've really opened up the side here a lot, and I've tried to make it go around this valve versus before this was really shrouded. So I've took out quite a bit of material. This side wasn't very fun to port. It was kind of thin, like not thin as in material, but thin to get in with my bit, and my bit bounced a bunch. But I figured I got that pretty good where it comes around. Didn't do a whole lot on this side, just kind of helped blend it in along with the wall here. Worked the short turn a bit. Could maybe take a little more out of here, but I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. I think the largest gains are made from carving this side out. I'll go to one where I haven't extensively carved it out as much. So you can see I've done a little bit of work over here, but compared to the other one, come on, focus. Compared to the other one, this one's dropped down quite a bit, as well as carving around this guide. Not a ton different for the short turn. So now we'll go to a stock one, or the one we were working on earlier here. So still lots you can take out of here. You can blend this in a little bit more. You can blend around the guide. this right here can be dropped in more, help smooth it out. And then you can blend that whole wall up with this side of the bowl here. But overall, I think this is a boat I want, but as far as I'll take this port. And it's there's probably some more you could do, but this is my first time porting ahead, so I'm kind of playing it safe, but going off of some things I've seen online. But I think overall this is substantially better than a stock port. You know, like look how restricted that is. So back to the intake now that the exhaust is done. For this next step, you're gonna have to mill your intake off to get any further porting done. I cut down, there's a hump here, and I cut that down quite a bit, so now you can see the back face of the valve seat. As well as I opened up a little bit on the side here, but a lot more on this lower end of the valve stem area. And then do a little bit over here. This is so big that it isn't really worth hogging out. You can maybe gain a little bit more by porting it and maybe tighten this up, but the main gains you'll see are all the way down here. So going to a stock port, you can see this huge lump here blocking. I can't even see the back side of the valve, so you can cut that right down. Don't really have to do a ton to here. You can open up the side a little bit, but definitely chewing down the side of this valve guide really opens up that area. When you look at, see, if you look at that area, you look at here, how much more room there is. I'd say the main benefit of having the intake off is so you can really hog out this lower area right here, as well as right there. Here's a little bonus for you on some high performance porting. This is a Hamilton Warhead on the 6.7 for my 69 Dart I'm building. And we can look inside the ports here. They've got a milled intake right out of the box and just nice and straight right to the valve. Quite an improvement over the factory cylinder head. And even people port these out and see mid 300 CFM out of it. It's a really good improvement. Show the exhaust side here. Nice and wide open. You can see the head bolt hole right there just protruding where the guide is. I don't feel like unbolting it here, unfortunately, to see the other stuff, but just something neat to kind of give you an idea as to the extremes you can go with. Should also consider when you're porting your head, if you should even just get a head like this to begin with. I know Hamilton offers a more bolt-on head than the Warhead, as the Warhead requires longer valves and longer head studs and a whole bunch of stuff to kind of make it work. But just thought I'd include it. Well, if you're not already aware, you're about to become aware. Porting takes forever, and it's almost like an addiction, because as you start die grinding more and more, you see how much you can shape the port and make it flow better, and you eventually you're 3 hours into one port, and you look at the other one, you're like, shit, I got to do that for all the other ports. And it's like gambling. Got to set a limit and stay within it. I hope in this video I've been able to kind of give you some insight as to some of the things you can do to port the head. I would suggest just starting off with one port, doing a little, then making all the other ports match, and then consistently going through every single port. I kind of made the mistake of going too crazy on one port and then realizing now I have to make the other ones match. So I had later ported a 24 valve head using the methodology of just doing just a little on each one at a time, and that one worked out better, but again, way too time consuming. In the future, when it comes to ported heads, I'm probably either just going to go buy a CNC ported head or get another Warhead like I showed you earlier in the video here. Rambling all aside, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see any other things like this, let me know in the comments. Please consider subscribing to the channel. It's doing great. I think I just broke 3,000, which is crazy. It's awesome. I'm happy that this is doing well. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.